Hi, good evening, and welcome to our Sunday meditation. Life is not easy at all. And 2 days after, after the biggest celebration of Jesus' birth, I would like to share with you what happened after his birth. And we are going to read in Matthew chapter 2, verses 19 to 23. After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother to go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead." So he got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene. Yeah, so Jesus was in Egypt. What was Jesus doing in Egypt? What is amazing about the birth of Christ and everything that came after that is that it was a very impossible and difficult situation. We would expect him to be born maybe in Jerusalem. That was the place to be born in those days for a king, but not in Bethlehem. Not in Bethlehem, and not in Bethlehem, but in the situation he was born. It was a very difficult situation. There was no place for him. That's why he was born where he was born. They put him in a crib. He was surrounded by animals, and that's not. It's not very kind, is it? It's not very nice. He was rejected from the day he was born here. But it's not that was terrible. But the worst is to come, because he will have to move from his own country, the country of his ancestors. He will have to move from there, because there is a king called Herod the Great. He probably called himself the Great. Was a very mean king who was able even to kill his own children so they wouldn't reign at his place. Of course, he's going to do everything to kill this child. When he sees the Magi coming to Jerusalem and talking about the birth of this special child, the King of the Jews, and he is going to persecute the child. He's going to kill all the children in Bethlehem who were under 2 years old. And then Joseph and Mary will have to go to Egypt. Some people believe that about 1 million Jewish people lived in Egypt in those days, especially in Alexandria and other big cities. So Joseph and Mary would not find any difficulty in finding a place, find maybe even some relatives there, living there. But what is amazing is that it's like a return to a place where they shouldn't go. It wasn't very good for them to go back to Egypt. That's what they did with Jeremiah about 5 centuries before the birth of Christ. When the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem, they had to flee. Some people fled to Egypt, and they even took the Jeremiah with them. Some people even believe that he died in there. And now Jesus is going to Egypt with his parents, not on holiday. He's going there because this mad king wants to kill him. Again, there's this fragility, this situation that is completely, to us, impossible. Why aren't things working the way they should? Why wasn't he born in a normal situation? Why the king wasn't there to worship this child? The politicians, the religious people of the temple. He's been rejected from birth, and now he has to flee to another country. But then in the text we read, he's coming back. Joseph and Mary were coming back to Judea, and then they realize that it is the son of Herod that is reigning in Judea. So they will have to go somewhere else. Luke tells us that Joseph and Mary, both of them, were from Nazareth. But Matthew is telling that they have to go there. And then Matthew says something that is completely interesting and surprising to us is the verse 23 when he says that he lived in Nazareth because it was written that he was going to be called a Nazarene. But then we read the Old Testament and we don't find any prophecy saying that he was going to be a Nazarene. There are a few theories, but the one I would like to share with you is this one that comes from Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1. Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1. And I'm going to try to find here in my in the internet the text so I can read to you. Isaiah. So Isaiah, it's with an I. Isaiah chapter 11. Here we go. A shoot will come up. A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots, a branch will bear fruit. Ah, the word for branch here, it's a word that could well be the root of the word Nazarene, Nazareth, Nazarene. And that's the theory that I would like to share with you. It will come up from the stump of Jesse. Jesse here is the father of David, who were actually from Bethlehem. From his roots, a branch will bear fruit. I believe that the idea here is a land that has been destroyed. Maybe there was a fire and the trees are dead or the vines have been destroyed, but the roots are still there, and then the shoot will come up. A branch will bear fruit from where there was no life. That's the Messiah here. And you see the situation in which he was born, the reality of the country where he was born, the economic and political situation when he was born. There was no COVID, but there was something even worse than COVID there. They had no freedom. They were controlled by a foreign nation. They had no control of anything in the country. And people in the northern part of the country were sitting in darkness, as the prophet said. And Jesus was born in that situation, in those days, difficult days, like the days we're living today on this planet. But even that branch is going to bear fruit. God is often working with impossible situations. Even Paul says that his glory, he put it in vases of clay with a huge fragility. And look at the situation. A virgin giving birth to a child. She could have been stoned to death if people found out she was pregnant before marrying her husband. He is born in Bethlehem on the fields, surrounded by animals, and then he has to flee his country because a mad king wants to kill him. Later on, many years later, 30 years later, this person is going to say, is there anything good coming out of Nazareth? Does anything good come out of Nazareth? It does. Jesus lived in Nazareth. He brought hope and peace to many people. Most of his miracles were done in the area of Nazareth, Capernaum, Cana, all those towns in what used to be the territory of Zabulon, as the prophet had said, Isaiah chapter 8. Those people who were sitting in darkness, they saw this great light, says the prophet. And Matthew is going to quote that prophecy when Jesus started his ministry, saying the kingdom of God is near. Can you see God working in your life today in all these impossible situations you are going through? Can you see? Because he is. He is at work in your life today, and he wants to change our lives completely. There is no situation that could be impossible because nothing is impossible with God. No word will always fall to the ground, some text says, with God, because he opens any door that it is closed, as Isaiah 22:22 says. And this text is quoted in Revelation for the Messiah, for Jesus Christ. He is the most powerful, most high God. But he's often working with difficult situations, with difficult beginnings, with things that are completely despised by people. And have you seen the miracle that he has done through a couple who said yes, and a bunch of young fellows who later on became apostles? Who was Peter? Who was John? James? Very simple people from Galilee, from the territory of Zabulon. But Jesus changed their lives and made of those people lights for this world. So Jesus became Jesus of Nazareth because there was persecution. This especially because God wanted it so. God had decided so. And nothing is impossible with him. From a very difficult beginning, God brought his kingdom into this world, brought salvation to us all. God bless you.